Welcome back to 5D Mystery School. We are doing another astrological analysis. This time we're going to be looking at this time we're going to be looking at the month of May. We're going to be looking at the month of May. Okay. So just one week, we're going to be looking at each week. It shouldn't be too long. So the first week here we have May the 7th, and I won't, cover everything, of course. I'll just cover some important transits that I think that would show themselves in reality. That being the United States, because this chart is for the ghetto, United States of America. Okay. So first we have Neptune. That's going to be at the first degree in Aries in the fifth house. That is an Aries degree. So that is going to be pretty important. And I'll tell you why in a second. Saturn is going to be right on the heels there. Saturn is going to be at the 28th degree in Pisces. So still going to be in conjunction with Aries. So with a few things you might want to look out for with Neptune and Aries in the fifth house is, let's say, museums that catch on fire, movie theaters that catch on fire, movie studios that catch on fire. And when Saturn makes its way here, it's not just going to be any movie studio, any theater, any museum. It's going to be the oldest. So think landmark locations, places that have been around for a very long time, that type of energy. Another thing Another thing that we can look at here would be so you have Jupiter in the seventh house that's sitting right on top of Mars. All right. And with Jupiter squaring the midheaven and with it sitting right across from the ascendant, but luckily it's not opposing. So with it conjuncting Mars at the 21st degree, that's important. The 21st degree is, let's just say for this video, it talks about higher education. And since it's squaring the midheaven and a Venus decan at the first degree in Libra, it's time to get that cash. It's time to get that money. That's what they're trying to do here with these student loan repayments and garnering your wages. That's Jupiter conjunct with Mars at the 21st degree and a Uranus decan. So I don't know how long this would actually, work out or if this would last. I don't see it lasting too long. But with the square in the midheaven here, this is just going to be a passing moment, especially with Jupiter being in Gemini. And Gemini also talks about educating, but it's opposing the first house of Sagittarius, which is higher education, right? So this student loan repayment thing, Libra representing contracts, deals, I don't really see it lasting that long. We're just going to have to wait for this transit to do its thing. Okay. This is just for the first week, by the way. I'm just going to look at one more thing before we go over to the second week. Also, let me say this too, why it is on my mind. So, with Neptune coming out of Pisces, it's going to retrograde back into Pisces. And when this happens, not to sound any alarms or anything, but this is a time where I would be aware, have my head on a swivel, because this can bring about hidden enemies here on the home turf. So sleeper cells, just waiting for their commands. That's what this retrograde can do back into Pisces, especially with Saturn dancing with Neptune here, and Saturn's going to also retrograde back into Pisces. So that is something to be alert for when that retrograde motion happens. Now, when it goes back over into, let's say the high 20th degrees, I would also be careful to watch of tsunamis, any cataclysm, any catastrophic event that can happen in the ocean, I would definitely pay attention to. And with Saturn being here, Saturn representing that high Earth, it's the highest Earth um symbol, sign. It is imperative that if you live by the water, if you live, let's say, California, some parts in Florida, North Carolina, if you live on like the coast, the coastal areas, just be on alert because it can be tsunami season. It can be, high tides and some earthquakes in there during that retrograde motion. Okay, so that's it for the first week. But pretty much what I'm saying now is going to be for the second week. So if I see something in the second week with the faster moving luminaries, then I'll expand on it. But with the slower moving, like Neptune, Saturn, these are slower moving luminaries. So that situation, what I've talked about, that energy is gonna carry itself over until it retrogrades and back over. So what I just said about Neptune and Saturn, this is going to carry itself throughout the month of May. Okay. Venus is going to change, of course. Mars is going to change a few degrees. Mars stays about, 5 weeks or so. So we're just going to keep our eyes on Venus and Mercury and the sun and the moon. All right, so let's go ahead and move over to the second week here, second week of May. Okay, so one thing I want to point out here is with Mars being a Leo in the ninth house representing, of course, higher education, religious establishments. When Mars gets to the 13th degree and the 25th degree, not saying anything is going to happen at all, but I would just pay attention to see if any shootings happen in any churches or any, colleges, any college campuses. All right. Also, when Mars was at the first degree, I wouldn't be surprised if we had any, shootings at college campuses or anything there. I can go back and check for sure. Matter of fact, let me do that right now. 1 second. All right, so I didn't see any school shootings for when Mars went into Leo. However, I did see the anniversary for the Columbine shooting when Mars went into Leo. I thought that was pretty interesting. Mars goes into the ninth house, Columbine shooting, ninth house representing education. Pretty interesting. And it opposes the third house, which represents lower forms of education. I believe Columbine was like, I don't know, middle school, high school, I'm not sure. Um, okay, so yeah, so I would just keep my eyes on that. So let's go back to the current date here. Let me change the dates. So around the second week in May, Mars will be at the 11th degree. So yeah, it's just if anything, the 11th degree in for Mars in the ninth house in Leo would just be more about like protesting schools, protesting college, that type of thing. Like students getting together, trying to enforce new change. So that's something to expect in the second week of May for that placement. What else can we find here that stands out? All right. So another thing is with our automobiles here in the United States, I would say right now the United States, turn off this fan so you can hear me. The United States is looking to add a bunch. I mean, this pretty much like should be known already, but it's just confirmed, with these placements. So you have Palace at the 26th degree, right? The 26th degree is all about, let's say, money for this video. So you putting money into automobiles, but the money that you're putting into automobiles is never for the innovation itself. It's more so for competition because you have Priapus here at the 27th degree, and then you have the moon at the 27th degree. So these 2 degrees definitely denote automobiles. And you have Aquarius, which Aquarius is also about automobiles, but it's more so for like flying automobiles. But so with these, with Palace here and going through the Palace return, I would not be surprised if you had either the rumors of flying taxis or the launching of flying taxis. And since you have Pluto here in the third house, Pluto is bringing about that life and depth, the renovation, oh, this shit is old, we want the new shit. So with Pluto here, at not you, Pluto, with Pluto here at the third degree is again about cars, automobiles. So what we're seeing is I would not be surprised if there were mandates like electric mandates where you had to either ditch your gas car to get an electric car or something like that, like a hybrid car, but it's going to be a complete like revamp of the cars as you know them here in the United States. That's the energy that's happening right now in the third house for the United States. And with third being on my tongue, let's go ahead and move over to the third week as we quickly finish up this video. And then here we are moving into the third week. You're going to have the sun moving into Gemini here. And now, with this sun moving into Gemini, the first thing that I would pay attention to is any like car deaths, you know. And with these car deaths, let me say this, let me look at this before I say this 1 second. Now, you're going to have Uranus here squaring the moon. And the moon's going to be right here sitting on top of Ceres. All right. As a transiting moon. Okay. So, yeah, that's what I would pay attention to. Any like car deaths near water. Could be, I don't know why famous is on my mind, but like any famous car deaths, I will look at again, that energy is still here. Renovation of vehicles in the United States. With this, with this Uranus at the eighth degree, I don't know if the sun's gonna make it through this transit, without seeing with the aspects, without seeing some type of it's going to be some type of catalyst that makes people rethink the way they drive, right? And when you have Uranus going into Gemini, Uranus is right on the edge here. It's going to be more of community-based, like carpooling. I see it happening, like ways that people can save money and ride for free. It's going to be a way that truly entices people to like give up your car and ride for free. It's not going to happen overnight, no, but are we going to see little glimpses of it? For sure. This it's going to be the push because you have Uranus right on the edge in Gemini. You have the sun moving into Gemini that's going to be conjunct our natal Uranus here in the United States. So, for sure, we're going to see the depth of the vehicle as we know it into moving into fully functioning smart cars with AI operators. Like, no, you don't have to put your hands on the wheel. Your car is driven by AI. That's the time that we're on right here. Okay. What else do we have here in the third week? Do I see anything else that stands out? We're going to have, let's see, Saturn. Ooh, Saturn's going to be at the 29th degree in Pisces. Now, this is another time that I would pay attention to tsunamis, earthquakes, like with Saturn being at the 29th degree here in the third week in May 21st. I would definitely pay attention for that type of energy, like large earthquakes. Now I'm not talking about anything small. I'm talking about the late, like 7.8, 7.9, 8.0 earthquake. That type of energy. If it was to happen here in the United States, it would be along the Neptune line, the Saturn line, here, or anywhere where these I would have to look at the astrocartography chart. to give you a better glimpse at that because I want to look at the moon as well. All right, so let's go ahead and move over to the fourth week. Sorry if I'm going really fast. It is hot here, and I have to pause the video to turn on the fan. Okay, so here in the fourth week of April, some glimpses of news that you might hear would be hospital contracts, changing. With this happening in the seventh house, I would pay attention to, the whole import and export game, with Uranus being at the eighth degree, eighth degree representing Scorpio, and for the United States, that's of course the import and export deal, tariffs, taxes, that type of thing belongs in the eighth house, but contracts for those deals start in the seventh house. So I would just pay attention to, you know, any hospital contracts, any supplies especially any car contracts, like foreign car contracts, greatly hindering the progress of the United States. Car contracts. Keep your ears peeled for that. I don't know. We'll have to because this is going to be a move that's done by people who openly, don't like the United States messing with these contracts, messing with these transportation deals. So people who openly don't like the United States, let me see, the moon's going to be at the 19th degree. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And it's going to be right here next to Mars. So one way to sum this up in the seventh house that we have here for the last week of May, with the sun at the sixth degree here, of course, keep your ears peeled on the hospitals for any shortages of supplies, any shortages of nurses. I would pay attention to with Jupiter at the 27th degree here, again with the conjunction with Mars with the orb of six. I would pay attention to any, let me see. I would say pay attention to the news. Pay attention to the news for cyber attacks. Okay. Cyber attacks. Because with Jupiter at the 27th degree here, that's Gemini. With the moon at the 19th degree, of course, that's Libra, open enemies. You have Uranus here. Uranus also represents communications. All right. It represents communications. The air signs all represent communications. They can all represent different forms of automobiles. Okay. And since you have Mercury here as well, representing communication, that is going to be so close to Uranus at the eighth degree, representing like that rebirth energy, blackouts, cyber attacks, threats about cyber attacks, that type of time we're going to be on for the month of May. Now, of course, this with these astrological analysis that I do, these are all just very basic, straight to the point. I try to be as brief as possible, try to tell you things that I see, glimpses of things that I see. If you want to dive in deeper with me, if you want to see more of these type of videos, if you want to know more about astrology, make sure that you come over to Patreon. The Patreon is 5D Mystery School. Tap in. We have tiers, that anybody could afford per month. And it's about the community, it's about the education, it's about just building with each other. All right. So please like this video, share this video, comment on this video. It really helps the video out and it helps to get me seen in the algorithm. And I will see you all in the next video. Take care of yourself and each other. Peace out.